Welcome, my friends, to another video on the Transformers TCG. This one's going to be another kind of discussion type video on the subject that has been seeming to sweep at least the Facebook groups and a lot of people's locals. Is the Transformers TCG dying? The short answer is no. Flat out no. But the long answer is a little more complicated. But we've seen a lot of people talk about this recently. People have been, Facebook post after Facebook post, people selling their connections, their collections, asking, the game's dead at my locals, how's it doing at yours, etc., etc. And there's just so many factors in it that don't actually involve the TCG. We even had to see our lovely Wreck and Rule admins make a few posts or two about no more game is dying posts. It's getting a little silly, and the brunt of it is people are just a little impatient for Wave 2. But the game is not dying whatsoever. They've clearly made a lot of things. They've made a lot of things clear to us that they're in it for the long haul. They did the lookings for the art director just recently. Like, they just posted they were looking for an art director, or no, the graphics designer. They were just looking for. They hired the art director ages ago. They commissioned huge batch of, I think they said, enough for like at least a set or two of art. New commissioned art, because previously they've just been using the art from the Transformers, the Legends or the Rising old app, mobile game, but they've been using those arts in accordance with the Generations line, but now they're actually commissioning tons of new art for it. That's happening. They say they have sets planned for the summer. Like, it's clearly the game is not going anywhere anytime soon, and they have made that very clear to us. So why are people saying this? Why are people saying the game is dying? What's going on? We haven't heard anything in ages. And while it's true that we could be exercising a lot more patience for Wave 2 information / announcements / reveals, etc., I think the other side of the coin is a little bit true too, and that they are taking a little too long. I do believe they are taking genuinely a little too long. I don't think it's long enough to get impatient and sell your collection or anything like that over, but they are taking a little bit too long, considering that we got Metroplex only, I think I want to say 2 months after the release of Wave 1. That was the release of Metroplex, not even the announcement of Metroplex. That came like a month after Wave 1. And so there we are in November, and they just kind of leave us dry for like almost 3 months now. We got Windblade's art. Cool. Windblade's in set 2. How surprising. The character that's been shoehorned into like every Transformers property and sub-property recently. Which, I mean, it's nice, cool. We got to see what she looks like. That's neat. She looks like herself. That wasn't a lot in ways of news. It was barely even an official announcement, if you want to call that, because we didn't get any actual details on the set, like how many cards were in it, cover art, anything like that, like a lot of other card games will at least do. This was literally just, here's a picture of Windblade. She's going to be in a set 2. Are you guys happy now? And kind of, a little bit happy, a little bit, there could be a lot more going. While I think, like I said, patience is a virtue, at the same time, though, things like this have to play off of hype. You need to play off your releases, or at least not just your releases, but your announcements and your leakings and your reveals. You have to play those off of hype. And the time right now that is taken between our last release and then what we've gotten, it's a little too long. It is hype dying amount of time. It's kind of like how a lot of popular animes will do, where something will be the anime for like the season, then it'll stop and then it'll come back. It'll be gone for ages, and everyone will forget about it. And then it comes back, and the hype is all back on. And I think it's kind of what Transformers is going to be like. As soon as we start getting Wave 2 stuff, like, everyone's gonna be going crazy. I know I'm gonna be going crazy. Everyone's gonna be so back in the game. Everyone's gonna be buying stuff again. Prices are gonna go up. Wave 1 is gonna go up. Wave 2 hype is gonna be absolutely through the roof, and I know that's what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen, because I know how we are. I know how Transformers fans are, and just card game players are in general. But I definitely think that we're going to lose a few players permanently to this, really long stretch of time through these reveals. I think, if anything, they should have possibly spaced out Metroplex a little more. Like, I think it was, if there was going to be like a 6-month gap, because I mean, if we're thinking of it relatively, we haven't even gotten Wave 2 like officially like they confirmed it, but like as far as like the actual set announcement, we haven't even gotten that yet. We can surmise that if we get that within the month, we could maybe be looking at a March, maybe February release date. That makes like a 5 or 6 month gap between Metroplex and Wave 2, when there was only a 2-month gap between Wave 1 and Metroplex. So that's a lot more time. I think that if Metroplex would have dropped in like December or something, they would have waited a little longer to announce him, to show him, and then slowly give us to him. I think if they'd have kind of like spaced those revealed out a lot more, because I feel like they got us accustomed to this rapid release. Like, here's Wave 1, now bam, here's something else, and then here's nothing for 4 months. Or here, then you get an announcement, then in another month or two, you'll finally actually get the set. Like, I think that was probably some poor scheduling on their end. They might have just underestimated how hyped people were for this game and how much they, would want this type of thing. Definitely understand they wanted to test the waters, but I think they tested within the first month of seeing how hyped this game was, I was immediately of the opinion that, this is here to stay. We're going to start turning out more products soon. People want more. People want much, much more. That is the epitome of set 1. This game is super interesting, and people want more. I think another factor that can be contributed right now to hype being a little low is that the game has kind of gotten a bit, I don't want to say stale, but between stuff like double primes and things like that, we've seen the rise of blue right now. Blue is becoming very dominant right now, as opposed to the pure orange decks. The game is not just orange on orange, one-shot fest anymore. Blue decks are actually, real blue decks are a serious threat, and blue is not as, I don't want to say, it's not as exciting as orange. It's not as, like hype and fun to play. So the game has gotten, I will say, while it's gotten maybe a little more thought intensive with the inclusion of, blue decks and more drawn out long games, and not just being able to mindlessly turn your card and flip 20 oranges first and win. I think the game's gotten a little more interesting in those aspects, but it's definitely not as, it's not as fun. It's not as, exciting and as hyped up anymore, which, it's a double-edged sword, but at the same time, like, the main thing is there's no really middle ground. Like, the blue is very dominant right now, at least from what I've seen, from what I've seen at my locals, seen online. Blue decks are really strong, and that's kind of making the game a little stale right now. So I think people just also really want Wave 2 to shake things up. I feel like the community has really exhausted the possibilities of, like, the probably like 10 or so like really good like teams within Wave 1. People are just ready for more. People are just ready for new things to play with, new things to shake up, kind of like the stale game state right now. We definitely shouldn't define the game simply by the first set. We definitely should not be doing that. People saying, like, I've seen people say, like, oh, well, it's very clear that, like, the game is just a one-hit orange fest, this isn't for me. Well, now, a month later, Flame War is the bane of literally every player's existence. Like, people are so fed up with this card. I'm fed up with this card. So, it's definitely a little too early to call the game dead by any means. It's a little too early to say anything like that. But as you can see, there are a lot of reasons why people are at least starting to think along in that mindset. I definitely think it's not time to sell your collection yet. If you have any interest in the game, if you have like a real serious interest in the game, it's definitely going to go up from here. We have a lot of room to cover, and they've clearly got, like, people are saying, there's my favorite character's not in set 1, pointless, they should just put all the bots in set 1. I mean, obviously not. Obviously, they intend on spacing this out way more, especially with the inclusion of, kind of more obscure characters like Flame War and Darkmount and, Sunstorm, stuff like that. They obviously are trying to pander to a lot of different audiences here, and also, like, depending on what properties you're interested in regarding the Transformers franchise. And they're very clearly trying to space out the big bots between sets. And I think that's smart. Like, they're playing for the long game, and before you say the game is dead, you should acknowledge the fact they're playing for the long game, because obviously it's not going on anywhere, and they don't intend for it to go anywhere. So overall, sure, they could have spaced the releases out a little bit more. Sure, they could have given us a little more Wave 2 stuff right now, but ultimately, like, I think it's way too soon to really call anything like that. Wave 2 is coming, guys. We know it's coming. They said early New Year. Like, I'm willing to bet within the next week or two we're going to start getting information on it. I really don't think there's a lot more time that we have to hold on here. The Wave 2 reveals are coming. They're going to bring the hype. They're going to restore the hope in the game. Do not sell your collection, of course, unless like you have actual reasons for not being interested in the game anymore. By all means, you do you. Your card's your money. But if you are really interested in this game, like and I know a lot of other people are, do not lose hope yet. Wave 2 is coming. So this has just kind of been like a really quick little like I guess PSA video. Like, hey, here's why people are saying the game is dying. Here's why it's actually not dying. Don't sell your stuff. Wave 2 is coming. The fun stuff's going to be in there. I'm looking forward to everything in there. And I am being a patient man and holding out for Papa Drew and the boys at Wizards to start giving us those juicy reveals. Stay tuned for those, guys, because we will be covering those on the channel as well. I know the second, I will have my camera busted out the second we start getting any information whatsoever on Wave 2, and I'll be here to join in all the hype and keep you guys updated. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until the next video, till all are one, guys.